All right, and welcome back to another episode of Raul's World of Synths. I am Raul. This time around, we're going to be looking at the Doepfer A170. More specifically, we're going to be looking at it in a more sort of traditional or classical type way for what it's normally intended for, and that is a integrator or portamento, also known as glide. In some circles, is even known as an integrator, which allows you to basically slide from one pitch to another. And then in a second example, we're going to actually be looking at the A170 as a filter. So without further ado, let's get our patch set up over here. We're going to be using a sample and hold over here on the left to create random notes, and then we're going to send those random notes over to our A110 so that we have something to kind of modify. Let's get this patch set up. I'm going to use my A147 to trigger my sample and hold and tell it how frequently I want it to fire random voltages. And then I'm going to take my random output from here, and I'm going to actually sample my random output from my A118 right there. And then I'm going to take these random notes right out of here, and I'm going to go straight over to my A110 just so we can hear what it sounds like prior to the use of the A170. So let's hear what this sounds like. We're going to patch it. There we go. And then I'm going to take it and pipe it over to my filter. I'm going to choose a saw wave because that's got some nice harmonics that we can use a little bit later. So I'm going to go into my audio input, and here we go. Okay, so pretty standard sample and hold type sound. And now let's hear what it sounds like when it goes into our slew limiter. So I'm going to take that same series of notes coming out from there, and I'm going to put it into the top slew limiter, because that's the one, if you remember back in the basics video, we discussed is actually a little bit more accurate for pitches. I'm going to take the output from there, pipe it over into my A110, and here we go. Now nothing's happening yet because I haven't increased the slew time, so let's try it out. And we should immediately hear kind of sliding from one note to the next. Now we can increase or decrease the overall effect by increasing the slew time. And you kind of adjust it to taste until you get kind of a pleasant sound or some kind of sound that you want in your patch. Now, depending on the frequency that you choose for the material going into it, as far as the voltages, I mean, you may need to kind of adjust your slew time accordingly. That is, in some cases, kind of like here, if I increase my slew time a little bit higher, I might not quite hear the effect that I was actually going for, that kind of sliding up and sliding down. So I may need to kind of adjust the frequency to get kind of my ascending and then descending slopes from pitches that I was going after. And there it even sounds like maybe that might be a little bit too high, so let me try a little bit lower. So what I want is a nice slide up and then a slide down. Try increasing it a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's a nice little descending. Now it's rising. And this is a common pitfall. You just want to kind of monitor the setting on your slew and ensure that it's creating the effect that you were intending. And this part can actually be a little bit subjective. So there is a little bit of personal choice involved here. I'm going to unpatch that so we can actually go to the next example. Now we're going to take our random notes. Actually, do I want to leave that in there? Yeah, I do want to leave that in there. So we're going to take our random notes that are being glided over here, and I'm just going to set it to a low setting right there on my slew time. Take my random notes, go over here, and let's hear what a standard filter sounds like before we use the lower section of the A170 as a filter. So I'm going to pipe it over here into the A120, which I've just been using. Cutoff's all the way up. So I'm patching it in here. And let's hear a standard filter type sound. This is just for those of you out there who have never heard the way a filter cutoff affects the sound. So here we go. You can hear it kind of getting muffled there. Now it's coming back. Pretty standard sound. Let's hear it one more time. Okay. So that's our normal filter kind of in action right there. Now I'm going to take this audio out from our standard VCO, and I'm going to pipe it over here into the lower section of our A170. I found the best results in the low setting over here, so I'm going to put it in the low setting. And then I'm going to take the output and then go over into our filter. Now, this probably is coloring it just a tad, a very small amount, but just for the practicality of this example, I think you'll get the idea. So I'm taking the output from here and I'm going into this over here. And you can already hear right there, it's a little bit muffled. Now if I bring this in this direction, I have more kind of a straight sound, kind of an unfiltered type sound. And so at this point now I can kind of use this lower section to kind of filter my sound a little bit. And you just kind of adjust it until you get the kind of a filtered sound that you're looking for. And it is a nice effect overall. I kind of like it. So, A170 dual slew limiter, many uses here. So if you're ever in a bind in your modular system, you can utilize the lower section as a filter, and it actually sounds pretty nice. At any rate, that's going to kind of wrap up the two examples that I had planned for this segment here. In the next video that we're going to be looking at, we're going to actually be looking at the A170 in a little bit different of an example. We're going to be seeing it as a glissando. It's a little bit of a different example from the manual. And we're also going to be looking at it as a simple AR envelope. So I hope you found that this video was very useful for you. Please stay tuned for the next one in the series. I want to thank you all for watching, and keep on patching out there. Thanks for watching.